Hi, everybody. Welcome to the month of May. Now, nobody came to the Zoom session on Tuesday, which is okay. So I'm going to go over what I think is essential information for you. So here we go. The way the month comes together is you're going to learn strategies and you're going to learn tools. And then you're going to have to put it together in demonstrating it through a case study. Now, the case study assignment, it's worth a lot of points. It's in the overview section. So don't skip the overview. And don't skip my archive videos. You'll be missing a lot of content. So what you want to do this month is learn how to think about using the earned media channel. Now, there's a number of concepts that we're going to get into. We want to understand our strategic context as a brand or an organization, and that's the reason for that is, unlike marketing, public relations, we're not dealing with a target market. We're not trying to sell a product, a physical product. We're trying to sell the brand. So our focus is really on the brand, the idea of the brand essence, and the overall ability of the organization to be able to fit into society and culture. I apologize if you hear in the background some growling and other noises. Couple weeks back, we became the parents of two baby dachshunds. They're coming up on 5 months at this point, and the morning is they're brothers, and in the morning they tend to tumble monkeys is what I like to call them, from Disney's Festival of the Animal Kingdom show. One of the couple of the characters that are actually in that show were called tumble monkeys, and they would do tumbling routines and kind of be fighting with each other and picking at each other, and that's the way the two brothers behave. So that's where that term comes from. Okay. So week one, we try to understand the strategic context because we're talking about the brand essence of the organization and what that feels like, what that looks like, how it interacts in amongst a much broader audience than just a target market. So one of the things that's very important is that where in marketing you're focused on the target market, we want to identify stakeholders. So we look at in new media marketing, which, by the way, is part of the branch of the earned media channel that we're dealing with here. We're on the main tree, and new media marketing is another tree that's underneath this tree, if you will. What we are dealing with here is we're dealing with making sure that we understand where the organization is situated amongst its much bigger audience. So we focus not on the target market like we do in marketing, or personas like we do in marketing. We're focusing on stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders of the organization? And stakeholders, remember that's a different word than stockholder, right? Stockholder means I own a piece of the company. Well, if I own a piece of the company, then obviously I own a stake in the company. But the important thing to understand is that stakeholders are more than just stockholders. There are many other people that are stakeholders in an organization. An employee may have stock or they may not have stock in a company. They're still a stakeholder. The company may be private or public. If it's private, there's not going to be stock, but that employee is still a stakeholder. Obviously, the owners are stakeholders. They have an equity share. Equity means they do as the company does financially. So an owner is always going to be have an equity share in the company. And so if we follow the logic, if I have equity in the company, that means I'm a stockholder, which then means I'm a stakeholder. But not every stakeholder is going to have stock. So, for example, let's talk about suppliers. Suppliers, they definitely have a stake in the company. And I go back to my days when I was doing a lot of work with Walmart in terms of real estate development. And I'm thinking about the shopping centers that Walmart is developing, and all the stores, the individual stores and entrepreneurs that are going into the shopping center where Walmart is putting their big 150,000 square foot store, and all those little storefronts, they're all stakeholders in terms of how Walmart does. As a matter of fact, because of that migration to that new shopping center, shop owners in downtown areas in many small towns left downtown and moved to the shopping center. And if they didn't, they found themselves in a very, very emaciated downtown area. There was just nothing left because so many people moved out and moved to the big Walmart shopping center. Now, I should probably go back and say and explain a little bit. Walmart's strategy when they were growing, they did not hit big towns. Their target market was about 5,000 to 10,000 in terms of population. So big cities, like we have in Orlando here, we have numerous Walmarts. When Walmart was growing, that was not their strategy. They went after the small towns first. And once they owned the small town market, then they went after the bigger cities. I had the opportunity once to actually, I was looking at a town in Kentucky, and I was sitting on a hillside outside the town, thinking, it was on a bypass, and I'm thinking this is probably going to be a good spot for a shopping center. I wonder if Walmart will ever come to this town. And this pickup truck pulls in, golden retriever pops out, and this older gentleman pops out, and we were standing fairly close to each other, and I said to him, I said, this would probably be a pretty good spot for a shopping center. And he looked at me and he goes, I agree. I think I'll put one here. And that man's name was Sam Walton. We had a very nice conversation that day on the mountain outside of Paintsville, Kentucky. So that's what a stakeholder is. Now, not only suppliers, but what about the people that live in the area that could be affected by a business? How big is the business? One of my favorite books, I'm not quite sure where it is. It's called Orbiting the Big Giant Hairball. And it talks more about organizational culture, but I think, what it basically talks about is the fact that big organizations or organizations of any size, there's things that are affected in their orbit. And that is that's what we're talking about when we talk about stakeholders. Who are the individuals, the groups, the businesses, the organizations that are in the orbit of our organization that can be affected by it? So that's why it's so important to understand the strategic context. Now, you've talked these elements in the strategic context in many, many classes. I know I asked you to tell me a little bit about them in new media marketing, and I'm sure every class down the road you've done, if not the whole strategic context, at least part of it. Well, in this class, you need to tell the whole strategic context again, including stakeholders. So make sure that you follow up on that part. Now, we want you to be concise, because public relations is about getting your message out in a very concise manner. It's really about communication. That's why in some companies it's not even called public relations, it's called executive communications, or sometimes just the communications department. Uh, and sometimes it has both you're going to see a video if you watch my archives where I talk about public relations being a boundary organization, meaning that public relations operates at the inner boundary of the company between the executive suite and the rest of the company, and it also operates at the outer edge of the company, between the company and all its publics and audiences. So it's very important that we understand in public relations the strategic context. Now, the second half of week one, your assignment is to devise a monitoring system and then to report on two things from that monitoring system. Now, let me tell you what we're talking about. So the monitoring system is business intelligence. Now, I give you a couple pieces of software that you can use, and I want to talk to you about external tools. You've run across external tools in probably every class, but external tools are important, and they're expensive. When a company does all the research and development to create a tool, a lot of times they give it away or give most of it away, and that's the free business model that you may have if you've ever done a business model strategy class. The freemium model, it's designed to put it in people's hands and get people that are fans that see the value of it and start to spread the word of mouth about how valuable the tool is. Think about if you've done any consulting. Have you ever done any consulting for free? Sure. I like to think of it, I'm helping people out. I tell people all the time, look, if you want to talk about how to leverage your social media accounts, we'll just go have a cup of coffee and we can talk about it. And then I'll try and help them get their thinking square about it. And then usually as I'm ready to walk away, they'll say, whoa, I don't think I want to do this. I think I want you to do it. And I'm like, bingo. A lot of times I say no, but every once in a while I say yes, either because of how high value the contract is, or it's somebody that I like and I want to help, or it's something I find really, really interesting, and then I jump in. But I'm always in the driver's seat. But I offer a freemium business model for my services. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to monitor your business environment. And there's tools, Feedly, NetVibes. These are RSS aggregators. I don't want you to go out and buy a subscription. Use the free version. Now, when this class was developed, that free version covered everything. Today, it's limited. So you may have to put together a couple different pieces, like TweetDeck is a great tool for monitoring Twitter, if people are still using Twitter. The tool the area that I'm starting to dive into myself, and it doesn't have a big enough monthly active user base yet to warrant consideration, but Telegram is growing in leaps and bounds, and they're adding tremendous amount of functionality. Here's one of the babies. This one is Flynn. I have to take a look because their heads look pretty close. Flynn, say hi to everybody. No, the camera's over there. Here, look, there's the camera. Say hi to everybody. He was jumping at my legs to get up. All right, go find your brother and wreak havoc. Hey, stop pulling apart my carpet. Come here. Oh. Well, if he comes back, he just ran under my footstool. If he comes back, then we'll introduce you to Fletch, Flynn and Fletch. I think that's not a tongue twister, let me tell you. Okay, so you want to use these tools, Feedly, NetVibes, TweetDeck. There's Hootsuite is a great tool. It's very expensive. If I have a client that I think can benefit from it, I have the client pay for Hootsuite. Right now, I don't have a client on Hootsuite, so I don't have access to Hootsuite. What else do I do? There's Sprout Social, Social Mention. Those are all good tools, and there's a ton of them out there to use in order to monitor. Now, why am I telling you to use tools? Because you don't want to go into and Google a bunch of long tail keywords every morning in order to do your monitoring. You want to have information coming into you on a regular basis. Okay, so here's the big thing, and you can lose points if you don't pay attention to this on week one. You set your monitoring system up and get it running for a couple days, a day or two, okay? And I want you to be looking at it. And what are you looking at it for? Well, we're going to look at it for one of three things, or all three things actually. We want to be monitoring if and look at stories. Look at what stories are being told about your industry, maybe about your company, maybe about your competitor. And those are stories that you want to curate and then retell, reshare. If we need to be building a relationship with our audience, that's why we're doing it, okay? We want to be communicating with our audience enough so that we're always top of mind in a good way. And one of the ways that we can do that is by educating and sharing in topics that might be of interest to them. Back when I used to run political campaigns, my specialty was judicial campaigns. And judgeships are hard to manage from a campaign standpoint because you can't go to positions. The only thing that I can really limit or really market is the judge's character, who they are, how they grew up, where'd they go to school. Sounds kind of like brand, doesn't it? Yes, it is. And so the way that we do that, back in the day, I was doing direct mail. Yes, I was responsible for a lot of the junk mail that you might have got in your mailbox back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And what we would do is I would tell a candidate, look, if you just want to have a chance, then we're going to have to do an ad buy, which direct mail buy, of at least 12 pieces. And I had a whole campaign laid out, a whole strategy. The first mailer is going to talk about this, second mailer is going to talk about that. Then I would say, but if you want to win, we're going to have to be, because all those 12 pieces do is get your name so that they recognize it. Now, if we want to get them to associate other things with the name and have a good presence, then we need to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 24 to 30 pieces. So double the 12. At least double the 12. And we have to monitor our competitor, or the other candidate, because if we really want to, we've got to have a good brand, but we also have to make sure that our competitor doesn't out-advertise us. That's why money in campaigns is so important. Now, I was doing this back in the late 90s, and I would tell a candidate in Florida, there's only 2 judges that are elected. They're 2 very important judges. They're county judges and circuit judges. Everybody else is appointed by the governor, and it's by a judicial nominating committee. But county judges and district judges, or circuit judges, and circuit judges are important. Circuit judges, if you do capital murder, you're tried in a circuit court in Florida. So judges, when you become a circuit judge, you have a tremendous amount of power. So I would tell them, if you're running for circuit judge, which is essentially 2 counties, I would tell them, listen, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you $150,000. That was back then, in the late 1990s. Imagine the cost today. It's probably $250,000. with the way that media costs have skyrocketed. So that idea of putting a lot of content in front of the audience. Now, let's say that you decide that your publication schedule, in order to build rapport with your audience, you need to have 6 pieces a week that you're communicating via social media channels. All right. That's a lot of writing. It's a lot of creativity. You either got to have people on staff to write that, you got to do it yourself, and then you've got to have a consistent flow of content. They're fighting over there. Well, the consistent flow of content can come from you monitoring what's going on in your strategic realm around your orbit, and finding articles that other people have written, other stories that other people have told, that you can curate and then share. So that's one thing. That's the easiest thing to get. I'm only asking you for 2 examples. Now, the next thing is, what do we do in public relations? We mitigate crises. We try to avoid them at all costs, and if one ends up developing, then we want to try and mitigate it. So another thing that you monitor for are potential crises. And we will try to make sure that we have strategies in place that mitigate or reduce the threat of that. So you could identify a potential crisis. And again, right now that's easy. There's a lot of stories out there about various potential crises, one of which is COVID. So that's another area. And then the last thing is, and this is important because this is going into what we do in week 2. In week 2, we will create newsworthy events to have other people tell our story. Now, newsworthy events, and we'll talk much more about this, newsworthy events come in 2 forms. They come in a real event, like, oh my God, there's a hurricane coming. That's a real event. Or we can orchestrate something, and we call that a pseudo event. Edward Bernays, who you'll learn about over the course of this program, was the master at creating pseudo events. There was a hotel in Washington that was having horrible results, and they brought Bernays in to figure out how to fix it. And Bernays did some research and looked, and he said, your centennial anniversary is coming up. We need to have the town celebrate the impact that you've had on this town. And so he got the town council, this is back in the early 1920s, got the town council together. They formed a committee, and there was a huge celebration for the impact that the hotel had on the community. And it was absolutely amazing. To this day, that hotel is looked at as an integral part of the DC landscape, both in terms of its physical being there and its contributions over the years. It's absolutely amazing. So we want to be looking for ideas for not only newsworthy events, but pseudo events that we can create. We can say, oh, they did that, but if we take and twist this, we can do this with it. And that's so those are the 3 things. What are they again? 1, stories that you can curate and redistribute from your brand. 2, you want to be on the lookout for any potential crises. And number 3, you want to make sure that you're looking for ideas for newsworthy events, pseudo newsworthy events. All right, so let me quickly go into the rest of the program for you. Week 2, you're going to focus on, you guessed it, pseudo events, and start thinking about a distribution strategy. In other words, who you're going to get it to. I'm going to tell you the secret right now. You want to make sure that you're hitting new media influencers and legacy media. Okay, so new media journalists or brand ambassadors and legacy media, print and broadcast. Okay, And print means newspaper as well as magazines and trade publications and things like that. Yes, they're still viable. Um, you might also want to talk about your owned media channels, which again falls under new media. Remember from new media marketing that we also have our own social media channels, so we can put things into those channels as well. So we kind of become a new media journalist at that point as well. Um, oh, by the way, going back to the monitoring, don't forget Google Alerts. You can create customized Google Alerts, and that's free. I love Google Alerts. All right, now, week 2 is newsworthy events, and you're going to write a press release. Week 3 is the full Monty distribution strategy where you really blow it out. And then week 4 is your case study where you're going to put together everything that you learned this month, including the items from the discussions. Now, in week 2, I've got a bonus discussion for you. You can only do it in week 2. It's worth 5 points to your grade. So if you have an assignment where you've lost points, this is where you can pick it up. And what it is, there's a movie out there called The Century of Self. It's actually a BBC documentary. Now it's done in 4 segments. Each segment is about an hour. And now that noise that you're hearing is the 55-pound border collie playing with the 6-pound dachshund puppy. It's crazy around here sometimes. So, if you watch The Century of Self, watch one episode just to see if it's you get interested. It is the history of marketing and public relations, and it shows the nexus or the intersection of marketing, public relations, politics, and psychology. It's absolutely fascinating. It runs from the 1920s, and it tells the story all the way up through the Clinton presidency. So all the way up to basically 2000, when I believe Bush became president in 2000. It's 4 hours, but it goes by very, very fast. I have a number of questions, and I want you to answer the questions. The only research that you need to do is to watch the video, but put specifics, use citations from the video in your response. And, you should do at least a full paragraph. But I'm telling you, if you watch it, you're gonna want to write about this stuff because, and it's going to make you think. And this is the material that drives what we do today. This will give you the history of public relations and make it come to life like you've never seen. So it's called Century of Self. The link is on the assignment. Last month was the first month, and I had 9 students last month. Only 2 of them did it, and both of them did a fabulous job. It is a pass or fail. If you decide to do the bonus discussion and meet just the requirements that it says, this is what you need to do in order to be complete, you get the 5 points. It's pass or fail. But you can't come to me in week 3 or week 4 and say, I want to do that. It's not going to happen. It's only in week 2. All right. So that is public relations this month. I hope you found all this interesting. And now, let me tell you, I'm going to be close to a desert island next week. I'm going to take my first vacation in quite some time. I'm going to be monitoring. My grading may be a little slow. I'm not quite sure what the internet connection is going to be, and I'll be with a number of other individuals. So I don't know how quickly I'll get things back to you. But if you need me and you want to talk about something, text me, and at some point during the day, I'll find the time to call you, and we can talk through whatever you may be having an issue with. So I don't want you to think that I'm out of touch. Just know that it's not going to be as fast as I would normally like. Now, nobody's talked to me this week, so I guess that's a good sign. But that's where we stand. That's what we got going on. Um, there's not many of you this month, so it's going to be pretty much a one-on-one type of class. Um, so again, have a fabulous month. You're going to enjoy this month. This is interesting stuff. Um, just remember, there are no conspiracies, but then there are also no coincidences. Um, so you're going to learn about how all this stuff that goes on around us actually happens. All right, this is Dr. John. This is the